I've noticed we have this tendency as human beings to kind of hang out in this undecided, kind of defer our decisions kind of state. And we do this. I know I've done it and I've seen it in my clients and my friends. It's like we do this in the areas of our life that are most important. And you can understand why. I mean, it's an important decision. Okay, so for example, the decision whether to stay in a relationship or not. Similarly, a decision to get married or not at this time, or to ask someone to marry or talk about marriage, whether to have a child or not at this time. Whether to, those are relationship ones. And there's also like whether to stay in the job that we're working in that we don't like or it's not fulfilling us, or to change our careers, is another big one. Or to move, to do a geographical move, to stay in this town or to move somewhere else, to buy a house or not, or to rent. These big decisions, I've noticed we keep them in this undecided state sometimes. And my contention is that is not a good place to hang out. Now, certainly, take the time to make a decision, and these are big decisions, so don't make them lightly. But what I find is, we tend to put them off for months or years or tens of years and until they no longer become relevant. One of the phrases that you may have heard is that, not deciding is making a decision. And so certainly take the time you need, I would suggest, but work through it and actively choose a decision is what I'd encourage people to do. And so let's look at the fear. I think a lot of the fear is of course the obvious one is making the wrong decision. We don't want to make the wrong decision, but there's going to be an argument for either way, right? Like if to stay in the relationship or to leave the relationship, there's probably there may be a good argument either way, to stay in your job or to keep your job. So it's always going to feel, no matter which way you decide, it's always going to feel like you may have made the wrong decision. So we guard against this by just not making a decision. If I don't choose to stay or go, back to the clash of should I stay or should I go now, we kind of don't have to deal with the fear of either being the wrong choice. But it keeps us in this like limbo land. And not much happens in limbo land. It's not a very dynamic or powerful place. Usually, growth doesn't happen there. There's not dynamic energy. There's not we're not on the medicine wheel because we've kind of stepped off the wheel of life or the medicine wheel, and because we're almost on the sidelines, because we're not really in the relationship, we're not really out of the relationship. So we're just we're just in limbo. And it's just not a productive place. It's not a growing place. I don't think there's a lot of happiness and joy in this place. It's not a real vital, feel alive kind of place, So what I want to explore with the rest of this video is what we can do about this. I think it really, some of that warrior energy, I talked about that not too long ago. It's kind of that dynamic energy that we all have. Sometimes it could be called yang energy or masculine energy, whether we're in, whatever gender we are. We can rely on and we can draw upon this kind of masculine yang dynamic energy, that warrior energy, to kind of push through. Now this is not good for all situations, but this is one that it comes in very handy, and you can kind of, keep yourself honest in a way, and you can kind of call yourself out and saying, look, I need to make a decision here. I may need to take a month or two to do it, and maybe I need to see a coach or a therapist in order to make, or a spiritual teacher, or maybe I need to do some ceremony or whatever you do to make decisions. It may take a while, but I'm going to start the journey toward this decision now. I can be in process of active process, mind you, not passive, active process of making the decision, and I'll give myself a month, to do this. And I'm going to do some sessions, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to talk to some friends, and then I'm going to pull the trigger, because that's what it kind of feels like. It's like, and it can be a very scary and vulnerable thing to do, but I think it can be really valuable, because then once you make that decision, you're back on the medicine wheel, and your life starts moving again, and you're heading in one direction or the other. I do this sometimes when I do relationship work. It's like sometimes I call it with my clients, it's like, let's bring it to a head. Like let's find out where the relationship's really at. And it might be in the form of having an honest talk, or maybe, it could be in some circumstances a sort of an ultimatum of sorts, or it's like, I'm not happy in this relationship and this is what I need. That's kind of like bringing it to a head. And certainly whenever I do this with clients, I let them know that this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm suggesting he or she do. But because then we can start working with it. So you're giving yourself this time to make the decision, and then you're actively challenging it. And then you're going back to the situation, the relationship, the situation, and you're getting yourself information. And it's like, this is what I'm wanting, and making these assertive, declarative statements and expressions, like I statements, and this is what I need. Is this, or this isn't working for me. It could be your boss. It doesn't have to be a relationship, like this job is just not working for me anymore. Are you willing to consider that we change my job description, or maybe I take a different role? Because I like working for you, but this is not working, and so that's this bringing it to a head. That's bringing it to a kind of a place where we're getting in for, it's risky business. If saying that to our boss is risky, and, telling someone in your relationship that you're not happy with the relationship is certainly risky, but it moves us toward, and it involves the other person or other people in your decision. You can make the decision yourself. Well, ultimately, you will make the decision, but you can glean information by involving them. Now, it's a risk to involve them, but it'd be good to know. It's like, to let them in on this depending on the situation, it could be beneficial to let the other person or people know that you're having this conflict, and to ask them, would you consider us trying something different here, whether it's in relationship or job or whatever else. Are you happy in this relationship? Now, this is kind of this meta talk about the relationship or about the job, and which is kind of scary stuff. And people, certainly the person you're talking to maybe caught off guard or whatever else. Maybe you can kind of build them up to it, but it can be really cool, because then you're making a decision, you're involving them, you're getting information from them, then you go back and you make the decision. You could do it and try it for a while. Let's try, and it's really, it gets down to being all in. That's like getting back on the medicine wheel, is back to being all in. So then once you make that decision, or even a trial decision, then you go all in on the relationship or all in on the job. Or in the relationship, maybe you have some time apart in the relationship. But you see, they're like, it's not this 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You're like all in, and you're doing everything to make the relationship work or everything to make the job work, you know, and or you step out and it's like, let's get all out for a while and let's see what that feels like. Risky business for sure, but it gets you moving in your life again. I always feel a huge relief when I finally make a decision like that. But I have part of me, that warrior part of me, that I kind of hold myself accountable and don't let me linger too long in the world of the in-betweens, this 1 foot out type place, because it's just not a very productive place for human beings. So that is my video for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an awesome week. And maybe at this time of year and during the week, you just think about, are there any major decisions that you're kind of putting off, that you're deferring? You know, is there something about a relationship or a job that you're not happy with, that you're just kind of putting off and putting off? And if so, maybe start thinking about how you can hold yourself accountable, like to make a decision and to choose one direction or the other. And I will see you in a week.